Welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja Black. We are post our press conference, another press conference done by the new Minister of Health, Minister Renwood Wells, and it was definitely an informative one for sure. I hope that you guys learned a lot, and we'll go through a few things that was shared during this press conference. Interesting things, actually. There were some concerns about the data, but can I just say today that I'm appreciating what I deem to be forms of transparency. Canada, what they don't know, they will tell you, hey, listen, we will go out and we'll look for this information. So I am very much happy that we are doing this and we're handling it the way that it is. That seems good. I'm liking this new flow. I'm liking the way that this is being handled, honestly. And we have quite a bit of things that were said. I want to show this. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. We are streaming live on YouTube, as we are live always every day on Guardian 96.9 FM. So there are a few photos that I wanted to share with you guys if you're streaming online. But if you aren't streaming online, I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. Okay, so 2020 has been a year. And COVID-19 has definitely been that kind of year, right? So we have this here, and I have to think about this, that oddly enough, the new timeline, the new data, the new dashboard, that's the word, the new dashboard is out. And this new dashboard that is out has, 2020 has been a year. Just the fact that the new dashboard is out. We've seen some interesting things on this new dashboard. One being that right now on the new dashboard, they're saying, as of last night, it said 40 deaths. I think today we now have 50, been reported 50 deaths, but the confirmed cases total 2,020 confirmed cases. When I saw this, I couldn't help but chuckle. That 2020 wants to make sure that we know that it's here and that it's confirmed cases is 2020 confirmed cases to date. We had today in our reporting today that we had some over 100 odd cases that were positive. And that is another thing that's interesting as well. Some other information that came out. So we have last night at 9:28, we had deaths under investigation was 10. And today on the dashboard, it showed 50. What I'm showing now is a little late, but it was about 50. Our recovered cases, our tests completed, all of them, the good news is that we are recovering, but not at a rate that I think that all of us would be happy with, but that's the case. That's how it has been. One of the things that was also shown was a mean, how long it has taken for most of our cases to be reported, right? We looked, based on Ireland, what was said was about the median was about 4 days for New Providence, Grand Bahama, other islands was 3. But then there were cases that shot up to 60 days, 65, almost 65 days before it was reported. And there were cases that were definitely over the 4. So I'm curious as to those being the mean. So those were interesting. There was a time taken to receive the COVID test results. And one of the things on the chart, and I was watching it and I took some photos from the screen, and there were tons of wonderful bits of data that was shared, was that over the course of the days and, in the second wave, that we were seeing test results that were taking, day 2 of the test, the second wave, 285 results, I think, number of cases we hadn't gotten the results back from. So we're now getting results as up to this point. 100% of those backlogs, based on what they're showing, has now been taken into account. So there is progress and there's movement. I'm actually quite happy that there is progress and movement, honestly, that we are making progress. There were tons of questions with regard to why are the buses still not running? And the answer is, when we look at data that allows us to have the buses running, we will have the buses running. And I wonder what is the data that they're looking for with regard to, is it the closed spaces? But if the airlines can travel and be booked, what's the difference? And if a jitney takes me about, 20 minutes to get to where I have to go, but then there's an hour worth of driving around, flying, or 45 minutes or an hour and 15 on a flight. So those things are what's going to be quite interesting to follow up and really get more data on it. But it was an interesting press conference. Again, I appreciated the fact that they were really trying their best, in my opinion, to get as much information as possible. And, to that, I give them, shout out. Something else that I thought was very interesting, they said that all of the hospitalized cases had at least one comorbidity, at least one. The number one comorbidity showing up in the COVID-19 cases that were hospitalized was hypertension. 46% of those persons with COVID-19 were with hypertension, 1% with sickle cell, 1% lung disease, 2% with cancer, 11% asthma, 31% diabetes. But all of them, especially hospitalized, has comorbidities. So that there is a good indication that we must take care of ourselves. We must not take this thing lightly, in that it can affect you, especially if you have a comorbidity. Persons who are sickle cell or with lupus, those persons, you need to, of course, you're always in jeopardy. Anyone with a poor or a low immune system, when we had Dr. Williams Lockhart on, she was the one who stated, listen, with these comorbidities and with hypertension or with diabetes, there's a lot of inflammation. And that inflammation is weakening and wrecking our bodies. And a lot of Bahamians, we tend to have inflammation. So, it's very important that we take care of ourselves. And those of us with comorbidities, you must stay safe. You must go ahead and socially distance. Make sure that we are constantly washing our hands, that we are opening up the economy. We are opening up the economy to an extent. I think we might be, like Cecil would say, in going quickly into phase 5. And with that, when we're talking about making those moves there, you've got to know that you're going to be in the midst of the virus. Another graph that I saw that was so amazing, and going back to how this virus is being spread, there was a chart that was showing how a group of people, and they used the police officers as the 95 officers, how them being positive, how many people it affected. And that is what got me. How many people were being affected by this virus, y'all? So that's where this is getting interesting. And I needed to get that shot. I'm going to get that because they had the 95 people. One officer gave someone 85 people around them were being affected by this. And this was only the police officers in that chart. And if you weren't paying attention, you'd have missed it, because the Ministry of Health did something I thought was very interesting. Why only use the police officers? You remember when I said that my sources said that there was a pandemic among the police officers themselves, and that they were the most unruly bunch in quarantine, or the lack of being in quarantine, the most unruly bunch, rude, always going missing. And the Ministry of Health, after being questioned and quizzed, and also remember that they were the police officers were the ones given the responsibility to follow up and police those quarantined. And when the COP was asked about it, the COP was like, I don't know, that's not our business to know who's in quarantine. We don't have that, da-da-da-da-da. Well, health officials told me outrightly that it is the police who are responsible for quarantine, for the quarantinees, and they themselves are not quarantining. But the Ministry of Health did a wonderful chart that highlighted the police and how that group of police officers affected so many hundreds and hundreds of Bahamians. That is a chart that I need to get in my hand again. They showed it. It was brilliant. I love that they did it. And I think it's fascinating that they used that group. They could have used the doctors, they could have used the nurses, but they thought they highlighted that group was right there at the top. Oh, that group was spotlighted, red, big red, and then it shot off, and all of its contacts traced to that. It was fascinating, as a fascinating chart. I'm telling you, there was something about it that I'm really excited about. I know my good friend CA will be joining me very soon. So what do we walk away with this COVID-19? What we walked away with in our thinking, in our thought process with this is, we are going to be open, and there are a lot of areas that when we are open that are going to need to be addressed, that we still have to be very cautious. We must stay safe. We are losing lives. People, family members are dying. And that is to know that these aren't just numbers, these are people. 2,020 individuals have tested positive throughout this entire pandemic in the Bahamas. What we need to know is how many tests. A great question was asked. It was how many tests are actually, how much are we actually testing? Not just what is listed here, but in this chart, because that's on everybody that's shown up. But are we going out and testing, right? Are we going out and testing? So that's very important to know what those numbers are. We're seeing an increase on different islands across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but when we walk into Monday, it is incumbent on us, y'all. It is incumbent on us when we walk into Monday to stay wise. We do not want to go into have the Prime Minister have to be competent authority again and to make a determination based on health officials' positioning. And listen, I didn't get a good sense that they believe in us, in us behaving, but that there was a lot of pressure in that as well to make sure. They were asked about what is the trending data that would have us open up now. One reporter asked if it was wise for us to open now. And the question is, the answer to that was, well, we saw some data that is showing us trending down, but yet deaths are going up and numbers are going up. And what is this? But they feel confident, even though some areas are not opening. I think when we looked, there was a chart that I looked at, I posted it on my page. Beauty salons, where they can see about 17 cases coming from beauty salons and barbershops. And that industry is still closed. Retailers, food stores, all of these other places show far more, but beauty salons and barbers are shut down. I don't understand why that industry is shut down when a lot of people need it to feel good about themselves. I'm just saying. And these are self-employed individuals. They can't get money from anywhere else. There are no businesses. I think that you would have to consider that these areas can mitigate. I mean, a barber can only cut one head at a time. He can cut outside. He can have one person in a shop. If there is a slew of barbers in a space, if you're the owner of that barbershop, there are days when a barber needs to be in. He or she, if you have a beauty salon or barbershop with chairs, that they need to determine, the owner of it says, well, listen, you can be a barber, you can have the space between X, Y, and Z days. And the barber and the beautician should call their clients and have them book appointments. This isn't hard work. I think that we can mitigate these things, again, as many people back to work as possible. The jitney drivers were doing fine mitigating at 50%. I don't understand why this is such a challenge now. If you were talking about opening almost everything else back up and allowing them to mitigate through curbside, restaurants can do outdoor dining again. People need public transportation. The answer that the minister gave and the health officials gave to me when talking about public transportation was insufficient. It didn't answer the real question. It still didn't add up to how we or why we needed so many, and some of the salons are taking appointments. So they are, but it's not, because it's not in the books, right? The order still doesn't have them opening. So they are taking appointments, but it's outside of the order. And that's important. So I don't want folks to get arrested, because in the last order, and someone says, my stylist omitted the use of a chair. I don't understand what they mean. Omitted the use of a chair. What does that mean? Were. Yeah, they were taking appointments. Okay. So we have to figure out, as best as we can, how to get as many people as we can into, to get their businesses back up and running. There's so many people who need public transportation. So many people need it. I was listening, and they have taxi cab drivers. That's one of the things that the minister said. The taxi cab drivers, there's only 4 people in a car. But my thing is, that's a lot of people in a car. Plus, taxi services are very expensive here. This is where we should stop trying to close off and protect industries. Don't forget now, the taxi cab group is a strong group and a lobbying group. This administration came in saying they were going to break up the cartel of the taxi cabs. They were going to stop these plates from being loaned. The same thing they were going to talk about with the jitney services. That's never happened because those bodies are very strong. That's why, and the tour companies as well. The tour companies, listen, God has a way of dealing with entities and handling business. But I know the tour companies are struggling as well. Who are they taking on tours, right? So you have a lot of businesses that are experiencing their challenges. This is a perfect time to use a system like Uber. Instead of the taxi cab drivers just having that revenue in an expensive way, because they're not going to change their model. The taxi cab drivers are not going to change their model. And you tell me what's the number in your mind, in your head, in your heart, that automatically gives you access to a taxi cab, right? What's the taxi cab's number? And you're used to spending $1.25, but now we have to take a taxi. Obviously, we need to pool our resources. Guess what that sounds like? That sounds like not just Uber, but it sounds like Lyft, where you're sharing rides. But are you sharing rides with strangers who might have COVID? How do you get the cost down for this taxi service? You don't want to catch a ride with 4 people in a car or 4 people in a bus, a taxi van. That's worse than the jitney, where you can socially distance, and I still pay $1.25 or $1.50. So I don't understand that idea, but it would definitely be helpful if we're talking about taxi cab drivers now going in, being allowed to service customers, that we allow services such as Uber and Lyft for young Bahamians to get into a business. Government, hear me. You don't need to be the employer. There are entities around the world that create employment, and that is a shared economy. That is a part of the shared economy experience. The capital investment in this economy is low. Almost everyone has a car. And so the young man who was put in jail for the coconuts can now say, okay, well, listen, I can now I can now be self-employed. I can go ahead, and there are no jitneys on the road. And even the jitney driver now can become an Uber. Even if you gave the jitney drivers first preference and said, okay, we're going to keep the market open for you for the next 3 to 4 months, and then we're going to open it up to everyone else. But at some point, you're going to have to determine, figure this can't be sustainable. School is opening. People need to get to these places to get, get their health insurance. People got to get the VAT-free spending and whatnot. These are things that are very important, and we should be considering it. I don't think you hold these things hostage, in my estimation. I think you open them up. If you're talking about, let the buses run. They mitigate. You can spread out buses. Tell them don't cut on the AC. Open the windows so that we can get fresh breeze. But you can have buses mitigate. Do the 50% capacity. Allow people to spend $1.25. If you're not interested in that, open up the shared economy of ride sharing. That is easy to do. People have cars, and then it will reduce the rate. But to think that you can put 4 people in a car, unless they're all family, and it's safer than having people in a bus where they have space, makes no sense to me. So we have my good friend C.A. Nuri joining me. C.A., my boy, how are you?
I'm glad to be on. I can say that. I find it very interesting what will happen come September when everybody's on the internet. Because my area right now is dropping like crazy, and I'm concerned. I am very much concerned what will happen to my house when everybody's working from home and the children are using the computers, on how we can manage in terms of dealing with this internet.
Yeah,
I'm here. I heard the press conference. I like what I'm hearing in terms of new information coming out and detailed information. So it's clear that the office in general, the task force, has been listening to the concerns of the media, listening to the current concerns of the general public, and have responded. And they've responded resoundingly that we are able to glean new information and work with the information and come back with better type of conversations instead of absentee of information. And that was what's happening before. So I'm very much more comfortable than I used to be, back in the day.
Yeah, I am too. I'm with you all the way. I think that this one was the last two press conferences. By the way, did anyone notice that Dr. Dalregis is not back, but Dr.
She
Brennan
says she's not back. So yes, I understand.
She meant it, eh?
She did definitely mean it.
So you think she was just like the heavyweight that the prime minister needed right before the address last week? Was she the heavyweight, the heavy hitter?
And perhaps all of that's just politics, where we just like people business. She came, she did her job. It was effective. She put in terms of temperament and the composure of the whole press conference. You see that there was very much energy involved with that. It was a reorganization of themselves, and perhaps they needed her to steer them in the right direction. The whys and the wherefores is just politics of it, where we just want to know. But she came and she gone, and now they seem to be having a good wicket.
Yeah, and I think it's, what it shows. I don't know if we should give her, I don't know. We don't know if it's Dr. Dahl who deserves all of the credit for this organization of data. Maybe it is, because when she left, it felt like the organization of data got worse. And now we seem to be back in here. We saw, can I just say, Dr. Pearl McMillan did she's getting so much better at she's getting far more comfortable doing this job. She looked fantastic, and it's sad that for women that we have to look fantastic, but she looked great. She looked refreshed, and she handled that data like a pro, and I learned so much today. So I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Pearl McMillan on doing a stellar job today.
The entire team was very good, actually. I learned a lot from Dr. Dylan Brennan also, and Dr. Bartlett, and in terms of how their approach of trying to explain things. And I wouldn't necessarily give all the credit to Dr. Dalregis, as when she was spearheading it, there were some issues too.
Of course.
It's during the second term that you see that it's better. So
let's just say when you've been drowning for so long, it's either sink or swim.
Yes.
And I think they finally figured out how to swim. And realizing that one of the biggest things in our Lord, your internet shorty bad.
Yes.
One of the biggest things was that there were questions that only data can answer. You don't need to answer the questions if there's data. What I would love to see for us is that we now have a space where I can go online with this data being in a portal, and I can go in and type in questions with regard to COVID-19 and extrapolate from that data.
And perhaps that's the next step. Yeah, but until people ask for such thing and say, demand that this is the next step, I find that still our task force is responsive, right? Mm-hmm. They're not really innovative in terms of coming up with what it is that the people or the Bahamian people need. So I find that they respond to our critique and our demands, and perhaps we need to give them requests and say, well, this is the next step where I see us at. And like you said, a space where you can extrapolate information and you can use that to educate the entire Bahamas. And perhaps that is the next step. And perhaps we need to push that hard and keep on bringing it up, that they're able to embrace that and push that forward.
Someone asked a question, Nahaja, should they not have what data is needed to move to the next stage? What is the strategy plan? Even if base numbers, there should be some benchmark. Very good point. That's the goal is with data is to be able to help you understand what is happening, and then to see trends, right? And learn from those trends. Okay, this is what we're seeing. And what we've seen so far is the group is coming back and saying, okay, look at this. And I'm going to share this on our screen. If you're just tuning in, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us live on YouTube. Type in Nahaja Black in the YouTube channel, and we're streaming live there. what the data is supposed to do, Cecil, in my opinion, is that when we look at this data, we're supposed to say, okay, you know what? I like the way this is going. Obesity and morbidity, they're trending in a certain way. And I'm going to share this on the screen right now. That we need to have this, and I'll share it here. Like, for example, the comorbidity profile. They're able to tell us at this point that the largest percentage of persons hospitalized are those with hypertension at 46%. So what that tells me now is, okay, listen, if you're hypertensive, harden eye. You need to take a minute and stay socially distant, sanitize your hands. 31% of hospitalized cases or the COVID-19 cases are with diabetes. What she did say was every last hospitalized patient has a comorbidity.
Yes.
So if we're looking at that, if we know that persons with comorbidities should definitely be on high alert and know that, hey, I cannot entrust that people who are walking in my space, if they're coming in my house, they need to keep their mask on because I don't know what you bring in, and I have diabetes and hypertension. And you find a lot of people have both. Some people, a lot of Bahamians are hypertensive and diabetic. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know those two things could come together. Like you salty and sweet. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know, right? So this sort of data, it helps to form trends and helps to increase understanding. Now, and they had a wonderful data too on the traveling, and I have the photo of it, the slide of it, where traveling inter-island, what was the effect of traveling inter-island with COVID-19 and how it dispersed, right? So that was actually pretty good data as well. So they're encouraging us to not travel, right? Right now, they don't want us to travel, Cecil.
And you know, Nahaja, that is all and good no. Perhaps knowing this information 2-3 months ago would have caught, you know, and see, it's easy to blame the Bahamian people and say, well, you shouldn't have traveled. But yes, data explains everything. And this data that has been presented today, 6 months later, it can convince the most doubtful of Bahamian, right? And we would ask, one would say, well, perhaps the data was not available 3 months ago, a month ago. But surely some data would have been available because we had a number of deaths already. We have a number of cases already, and we could have presented that and explained that to maybe perhaps the people on the family island, say, hey, these are what is at risk, right? See, what I'm seeing now, I can comprehend and understand. Yeah. I can go back and speak to people and say, yeah, this is the facts, you know, study and be approved on this, right? And I'm grateful for the data. I'm thoroughly grateful for the data. But I still need to know why it took so long to come here. Not criticizing them, no, because I'm still grateful for the data.
No, but why did it take
so long? I still want to know what went wrong so it doesn't happen again for the next pandemic.
Yeah, and how are we building our technological resource? One of the brilliant Bahamian, I've mentioned her many times. I really respect her mind, Rowena Bethel. We both are familiar with her. She's in Abu Dhabi. She, when she worked in public service, she worked in the data mining, in data processes here. And one of the things that she shared with me was that, Nahaja, data is king. If we do not have the infrastructure, the technical infrastructure, how are we able to compute data, gather data, compute it, analyze it in order to learn from it? And there should have been central, before the pandemic became a pandemic, we should have already known and figured out how this was going to come in using, future forecasting. And then when it did come, we were able to, in the beginning, to spot check and say, okay, this is the areas, this is how it's going to spread, this is how many days it's going to spread. We know we have community spread. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to shut down once and for all X, Y, and Z this one time. And this is what our strategy is going to be to mitigate the spread again. And those things has led the lack of that information, the lack of that awareness and technological prowess, I believe, is what has led us to the second wave. But we've got information and data. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, more with C.A. Nuri here. We're talking about the COVID-19 press conference. And then at 5:30, I'm going to have a wonderful young lady, Alicia Lewis, who is a friend of mine from Canada, who's going to talk about how to listen. Some folks, I won't sugarcoat it. This ain't going to be easy. Some of us need to relocate. And if you are interested in relocating to Canada, this is the lady I would support. Some of us need to just figure out how to get the hell out of Dodge. The sweet people, I don't know if we could wait another 18. See, so don't shake your head. 18 more months? Child, listen.
Anytime I hear you talk with Canada, I get scared of you leaving me.
Listen,
so no.
I want you to know, Nova Scotia won all our hoteliers. I just saying, boo, you ready to go? I got the hookup. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. When we come back, more with my good friend, C.A. Nuri. We will be back right after this. You're listening to the Hit Back, Guardian 96.9 FM.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jillian Gray, and you're listening to news headlines on the hour over the Guardian News Network. Here's what our news team is working on. 97 more people have tested positive for COVID-19, according to the Ministry of Health. That brings the number of total coronavirus cases to 2,020. The new case numbers by island are 82 in New Providence, 6 in Grand Bahama, and the location of the remaining 9 are listed as unknown. Meantime, the Consultant Physician Staff Association said they are alarmed by the number of COVID-19 deaths in the country. They are calling for a zero-tolerance approach to those who do not wear masks in public, do not abide by quarantine orders, or worse, go out in public while sick or knowing they have COVID-19. While the Grand Bahama Port Authority has spent nearly $3 million helping small, micro, and medium-sized businesses recover from the devastation wreaked by Hurricane Dorian nearly a year ago, according to GBPA officials who insisted the financial support was crucial, given the fact that nearly 70% of those businesses were uninsured when the monster storm ravaged that island. And leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Philip Davis, has now been discharged from hospital in the United States, where he was being treated for his COVID-19 infection. A video posted to social media by his family shows him walking out of Emory University Hospital in Atlanta yesterday evening with his daughter, Dr. Philippa Davis, by his side. A statement from his party's chairman, Fred Mitchell, quoted Davis as saying he felt much better and was grateful to Bahamians who sent prayers and best wishes. That's what our news team is working on at this hour. I'm Jillian Gray. Stay tuned as AP News is up next.
News Minute. California Governor Gavin Newsom is out with a new process for reopening businesses that is slower and more gradual than what the state tried earlier this summer amid the coronavirus pandemic.
We start moving, but we do so in a safe way, and we do so with some confidence in these new guidelines that will allow us to measure progress in a more extended period of time.
The new rules set up a 4-tiered system. The counties would have to meet for 3 weeks before being able to open certain businesses. California is third to New York and New Jersey in the number of COVID-19 deaths. Nationally, Johns Hopkins reports more than 181,000 deaths. Local health departments are pushing the CDC to reverse its recent change in coronavirus testing guidance, saying it's undermining their work to stop outbreaks. The departments say the federal authorities didn't give any specific scientific reason for the change. I'm Tim McGuire.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
In the years following independence, the Bahamas Development Bank has been there to carry out our mandate of expanding the nation's economy by investing in Bahamians. We have worked with you to grow the biggest dreams from the smallest seeds, to build connections across land and sea. In 40 years, we have done amazing things together. Thank you, but it's time to make a change. Our world is evolving, and so are we. We are moving, looking to the future, shaking up business as usual, adapting to new realities, investing in creativity, innovation, and sustainability to power the possibilities of the new economy, while remaining true to who we are, to meet the needs of tomorrow and to better serve you. We are your development bank. Meet the new BDB. Visit our website at www.bdb.gov.ps today and learn more about how we plan to support economic diversification and expansion.
It's the beginning of the hurricane season, and Fidelity Bank is giving you one less thing to worry about. We're not able to control a storm or its path, but we can prepare for it as much as possible. With every debt consolidation loan, Fidelity is giving away fully loaded hurricane kits valued at $200 with all the hurricane essentials you'll need to weather the unexpected storms of life. It's that easy. Sign up for a debt consolidation loan, open an ASUS savings or fixed deposit, and walk away with a free hurricane kit. At Fidelity, we're committed to helping you through these difficult times. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Listen, it's a pleasure to have everyone back here with me, my good friend C.A. Nuri, here to discuss the post-press conference. All right, C.A., so a few things that are, in the news today, and we'll discuss before we go Brave Davis, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the fact that jitneys are still not being allowed to run, and beauty salons, barbershops, not opening up. I have personal reasons for why I'm concerned why the beauty salons and the barbershops can't open. These people are very much self-employed, and a lot of the bus drivers are as well. So these are groups that can mitigate, and that were mitigating before. 17 cases have been traced to have come from barbershops/beauty salons. 17 cases out of 220. They haven't shown us any cases that came from jitneys. So what is the challenge with these entities opening up? But we saw retailers, the government and their offices, the police force, for God's sake, I think they're far more egregious spaces than the beautician or the barbershop versus the jitney drivers versus other places. What are your thoughts on that?
It all boils down to science. And during the break, I was thinking and considering a show you had about 4 shows ago, right? When you were pressing for data and you were frustrated, and in fact you gave up on the entire process, how frustrated you were, saying that you need more data. And I feel that there are a number of decisions being made that is vacuumed without data, where people have to wait, and it seems as if it's just being done on a whim. No scientific reason at all. And these people must organize themselves. These people must petition the competent authority and write letters, just like the business, the franchises that have written the competent authority and have
that one franchise.
Well, they got a response, right? Mm-hmm. And we know that the competent authority do receive that. We saw the little boy with the drawing with a flag and encouraging the prime minister. So definitely the prime minister receives mail, right, regarding what's happening for COVID-19. So clearly these people need to organize themselves. They need to petition harder. They need to get some scientific data on with them and place it in front of the competent authority and allow him to analyze it and just decide yay or nay. If the competent authority decides nay without considering the scientific information, that means it's personal. And it just means that he doesn't want you all to open. But you need to consider the steps first before you conclude to that. And that's what needs to happen now. These people need to organize themselves and put it to the competent authority on why they should open. Not just that because they broke. It needs to be better than that, you know, and then allow the competent authority to make a decision. And then, you know, moving forward, this is what the competent authority sees as.
Well, you know, being broke is a good one, you know. Keisha says data drives decisions and should be used, not just in health, but in many of our government ministries. Education needs a data push regarding its virtual learning models. God knows she's right on that. John says small businesses run an economy and you will have less people unemployed and collecting unemployment. So I'm with them altogether. Someone else on a point of data says, Nahaja, you're a bit wrong on the data analytics. I come to my conclusions, what people refer to as the lack of data. I can use qualitative and quantitative data analysis methods of data, dark and big. I also look for and at what is missing to arrive at a conclusion. Example, how did I conclude to the exact date of August 25th being the absolute deadline for government to make announcements and by September 1st for reopening? I look at what was presented and I look for the unseen data of causation that they used to give what they did. Then I use the two data sets to predict the future dates. I also then applied the data, behavior laws and NIB and minister announcement to come to that conclusion. If they didn't open 90% of the companies in the Bahamas would have been declared legally bankrupt, even if their assets exceeded liabilities, because winding down or cash injection would have been the only options. That's interesting. So this person is saying that through data they can tell, they knew based on data collection that they were doing that we would have ended up being bankrupt. And that's why the government had no choice but to open.
That too is subjective, unless he's the person who wrote it is prepared to put the data forward and put the argument forward that we all can follow and say, yes, I understand where you're going through. It just seems as a subjective point in generalization of what's happened. I know earlier that you had a text where the person asked, why couldn't the specialist state on the parameters on what needs to happen in order for the entire Bahamas to open, right? Or when and see, that's a concern for me too, that there isn't any clear procedure or what should be occurring in the Bahamas to open it. So the conclusion for that means that it's going to be done, the decision is going to be done on a whim. It'll open because I say it open. Not because the data shows that it should be open, that we are on, I'm not even sure what stage we're on anymore, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't know either. Yeah.
You know, because 1 minute that we are on a complete lockdown and the next week, everything open, you know, it goes to extremes and no data supports it. And I know that the opposition at one point in time was complaining about data. And they continue to do so. I know the media was complaining about data, and they continue to do so. And now that we garnering new information and new data, it brings forth new complaints, new concerns. And I think that those people who are analytical in nature and who does this for a profession needs to come forward and question the competent authority as, is this based on the data plausible, right? Yeah. Are you using data to come to this conclusion? And again, it seems as if it's all opinionated based, right? And that even though they mean well, and I think that's what's pushing us forward, that we know that the health team means well. We know that the health teams has the concern of the entire Bahamas on their backs and their welfare. But the data itself is forthcoming that we can say, okay, I see why you came to this conclusion. And now we see we getting late data, which we are able to appreciate and comprehend, and say, okay, competent authority, we support you based on this late data. But I still say it is a concern that the data continues to come late, right? And that we do not know where we are right now in terms of the data. Like I said, I still don't know in terms of opening, are we on stage 3 or stage 5? Based on how many things open up, we should be getting ready to open up the whole Bahamas. But that doesn't. But based on the numbers of how many persons catching COVID, we should be closed. So it's just like a mix-up, a paradox.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. How are we expected to progress now? So this is where we are today. We were told by the health officials, listen, we need to behave, right? Yeah. We need to behave because they don't want us to end up in those extremes where we have to be locked down again. But am I confident that we are? And listen, the economy needed to open up.
Yes.
We needed protocols on how to stay safe.
Yes.
Whilst the economy was opened up, and I felt a bit like they were begrudging even that information, right? So when I say begrudging that, they were like, y'all want to talk about being safe now and y'all want us to open up. That's the kind of vibe I was getting, especially when I think Dr. Brennan was asked, are there any other ways that Bahamians can protect themselves from COVID-19? And he pretty much said, listen, all of this other foolishness, y'all, in essence, he didn't say that, but how we care, he said it. In essence, all this other foolishness y'all listening to, ain't nothing to save y'all but social distancing.
and see, he's nothing able to have that type of opinion because his salary hasn't been cut. But let's say we conclude that things are bad and we have to cut his salary by 30%. You'll see that he would suggest new ways of what we could do to protect his salary. Right? And when it's easy to talk about what we need to do when you're not hurting. But when people are hurting, they don't think straight, right? And we need to even help them move forward. Get ideas on how there's a complement, right? In terms of opening and protecting themselves. And like I said, we're getting these information slowly, right? Because we seen it now. We can appreciate it now. Like the Prime Minister recently, and I just get confused about, but should I say Prime Minister or competent authority? Because
me too.
Two different issues, right?
Yeah.
The competent authority mentioned that due to the age, the age of the residents of Acklands and Crooked Island, this is one of the reasons he was trying to protect that island through
trying to save them. Yeah,
save them,
trying to save them
because of the inter-island the inter-island travel, right? But he just said that. This is 6 months in. If he had said about 3 months ago, perhaps the Bahamian people would say, okay, I understand. I'm not going to visit my auntie, even though she's having a wedding down there, or they're having a funeral for my favorite niece. I know that I'm putting the entire island on risk based on the data that was put forward. When you see 6 months later, you come in back and say, I told you so, but I'm just telling you for the first time, then it's disingenuous. It's not fair.
But I love the word you used, disingenuous. I feel like a lot of the communication has been disingenuous. It is coming back and saying, but you all did it. You didn't tell us that this was a challenge that you were facing. Yes. So you can't punish me for something that I didn't even know was an offense, that I didn't know was a problem. And then to somehow, I call it gaslighting. I feel like narcissists do this a lot. We get gaslit a lot, where all of a sudden you go in with a complaint, they switch it and say it was you. So you're confused trying to figure out, but I thought I had an issue. Oh, I thought I had an issue with you. No, apparently now it's my fault and I'm depressed and you're going to pat me on the head and say, okay, yes, it's your fault. And you do better. It's just this competent authority has mastered the art.
Yes.
And I saw it from Loretta, but I didn't know it was that powerful. Now we all getting Loretta-ized.
Oh, right? Lord.
Like the whole country is getting Loretta-ized, and Andre Rollins didn't know what he was doing. If Andre knew, he would have never slapped Loretta. He would have slapped himself, and he would have stayed on the Loretta train. But we digress.
But you mixed that story up. Andre didn't slap Loretta.
Who slapped Loretta? Oh, right.
Oh, Lord.
Sorry, Lord.
I know Andre personally, and He
Andre
doesn't. He's
never
not a
slapped that
violent person
woman.
at all.
I was meaning Loretta slap
Yeah,
Andre.
I know, and I want you
totally
to.
got that wrong.
You may have to
Like,
apologize to him.
I have to, because the man would never slap a woman.
No.
He's a good man. He's a
No.
good man.
Yep.
Loretta slapped him and checked because he fell in line.
It was hard.
It was a good one. And
It was
he's red
hard.
too, so it was like a whole
Swollen.
finger.
It was swollen. It was swollen.
Right,
It wasn't called for though. It wasn't called for. That was the beginning of the end right there. People don't forget.
The beginning of the end for who? Loretta or Andre?
You see what happened?
Both of them.
Left on the stage and with no one there. But anyway, I digress.
We digress. Boy, that was a good show back in the day, eh?
It was.
That story's still good though. That's still a good story. Okay. But anyway, we digress.
But moving forward, though, it's all about moving forward. I know you have a guest now soon coming, and who will talk about
traveling, the Exodus, the Exodus, man, the Exodus.
The Exodus. But I am still concerned about what is happening in the Bahamas. I think that a number of the information is what the right word for it is in response. We always responding to the drama instead of being in the forefront and guiding what is happening. And I see that we are slowly moving forward. And I congratulate the Prime Minister and his team, and I continue to support him. I am concerned about the numbers. The numbers continue to increase. I'm now leaving it for the COVID police. I saw the car for the first time today.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. A real COVID car passed me, right?
And what area?
It was
what area?
Prince Charles.
Oh yeah, they could be out east now. I see that no deal.
So I think that it's incumbent on the COVID police now and in a larger COVID team to now police and enforce laws regarding our safety, right? We know that the economy is open. We know that a number of Bahamians won't follow and won't adhere to the protocol. So we need persons now to police us. That's what police are for. That's what the COVID police are for. And if they can stop to the food store every so often and say, hey, you're too close. Or if they can stop to the fish fry and say, where's your mask? You're getting a ticket right now. We're going to enforce this. If they can stop to the barber shop and say there are too many people inside here, we are suspending your license for 2 weeks because you had 10 people instead of 8.
Yeah.
And I know now, the COVID police is just pop up. So I need to make sure it's 8.
That's why they got the new cars, man. That's why the taxpayers paid for new cars, even though we broke. Okay? Because they're supposed to be, they didn't need no new cars, by the way. That's just me being very.
They could have bought some Japanese cars.
Man, look here. They could have taken a lot of these government cars, which supposedly supposed to be sitting down, not being used because the offices are closed, and let them ride in those cars.
I agree.
Oh, we gonna buy 23 new cars when we're stuck. Who did we help when we bought those 23 cars? Because it sure wasn't no regular car. It wasn't the African car lot salesman. I tell you that.
No.
All right, but we digress. Anyways, their duty is to go out and be prevalent, be out there and do, show themselves strong, show themselves in the community. Listen, we have, what is lacking in our society, Cecil? We talk about discipline to the community, but always discipline and citizenry. But our men and women who are responsible with the essential tasks of monitoring, is our police force disciplined? It's supposed to be the most disciplined branch in this country. But yet it is the police force that is the super spreader, okay? One of the super spreading groups. Are they disciplined? Are they being the ones who will carry out the mandate, not just as a police state, but as an entity that can be trusted to do a job respectfully, to do a job with integrity? We have an issue with discipline in all facets of government, right? And you can't come to the majority, to the masses, and ask us to be someone. When I've had so many persons call me saying, Nahaja, man, you were spot on with that report about the police force and them having a COVID pandemic of their own, and that they're breaking curfew. I've had people say, some police officers are delivering food. Some police officers are quite aware of parties. Nahaja, you need to stick and stay on this conversation. This is what they're telling me. Now I could go ahead and if I want to confirm it, I could confirm these stories for those ones. But I don't even, at this point, I don't even have to go there anymore. I am of the position of, The people who are responsible to us, for us, are not being responsible themselves. But yet the Prime Minister, yet the Minister of National Security says that, hey, this shouldn't be a big surprise. The police officers should have COVID-19. They're out on the front. What?
Excuses.
What?
Excuses.
Oh, and before we go, something else to make note. Tomorrow, I've been told that some of the nurses will be walking out again tomorrow.
No.
Some were exposed to COVID-19 from Sunday past and still have not been tested, and that there is no AC in 2 of the wards, but then they're told to wear PPEs and they're sweating to death.
Do they really want to have AC pumping inside that place with COVID-19 flying around?
Well, listen, if you're going to work, I think it would be better to have the AC pumping. Don't forget, one of the things that was said in this press conference was that businesses, when they find out that they have someone who's COVID-19 and their person has probably been in that space for about 7 days or whatnot, that they have to call the Department of Health, Human Health and Services or something like that. And they will have to be shut down. Their AC vents have to be cleaned. All of these things the business has to do. Does the hospital clean its vents? Is the hospital sharing one unit? So they can't come and tell the business owner how excellent they must be, but the hospital is in worse condition. And they want to tell us about how, you see, okay, you see, okay.
What about the clinic? The clinic, so South Beach Clinic now is the COVID clinic?
How often they clean in them vents?
You don't close.
Okay. All right. And yet you mean to tell me people got to work in heat, dressed up in all their PPEs, and they finally get their PPE, Cecil, but it's too hard to stay in it.
Oh, Lord.
Listen, my brother, thank you so much. I've got my special guest coming up for the 5:30 mark. Excited to have her on. This is for everyone. If you are looking for or thinking about making a transition, if you've got skill sets, especially those who are in tourism, I am here, Cecil, not to tell people to sweat. They sweat in a country that don't love them, I would prefer for every Bahamian to stay home. But I tell you now, 18 months and I ain't see that, boo. And then if God help you, PRP win, you think you got a real solution then too? I give up. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
Don't go, Nahaja. Don't go.
Man, look here.
Stay and develop the Bahamas.
The grass ain't always greener, but sometimes you got to check.
Just in case.
You got to check. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. We'll be back. Alicia Lewis, thank you so much, CA. See you next week, buddy. God spare. We'll be back after this. The Hit Back with Nahaja Black on Guardian 96.9 FM.
Beulah gal, can you believe this? We are now the patrol queens of the neighborhood. We now large and in charge. So we need to check out what's going on in everybody's yard. What about that gun that we know that Junior and his homeboys just ran out? Can we report that too? Of course we can. But we could be in deep trouble if they find out. We need to report what we see, Beulah. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami. So then we can report everything. Guns, where they hiding the drugs, who shoot who part of which gang, or who disturbing the peace with the loud music and the motorcycles. Then our neighborhood will be the best in the Bahamas, and everybody gonna want to come live here. And then our house price will go up, gal. So what we waiting on? What's the number?
If you see something, say something. Let us all pitch in and stop the crime before it's your time. Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands, or text us through the Crack Crime Bahamas app. Stop the crime before it's your time.
When you retire, you should do it your way. Unlike an annuity, Royal Fidelity's personal retirement account puts you in the driver's seat with the flexibility to change with your lifestyle. You choose when, how much, and how often to receive your pension payments. Plus, you'll have access to the best performing investment funds in the market. That means your money keeps working even when you aren't. Retire your way with an RF personal retirement account. Call us today at 603-6000 to learn more. Royal Fidelity, money at work.
The Water and Sewage Corporation advises the public, its customers, and the residents of North Westridge that the corporation will commence improvement works on Lakeshore Drive on August 27, 2020, for a period of 7 weeks. During this period, there may be an interruption in the water supply, road closure, and detour around the work areas. Motorists are asked to avoid this area between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. The corporation apologizes for any inconvenience this may cause and appreciates your support as they work to improve their level of service.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Special guest on the show with us today, Mrs. Alicia Lewis, all the way from, are you in the T-Dot, Alicia?
On the outskirts, but yeah, we'll say T-Dot.
All the way from Canada, Ontario, Canada. Happy to have her here. She's an immigration specialist, consultant, the whole thing. She has been in the Bahamas numerous occasions. My husband and I have sat in one of her seminars or sessions, and we have spoken to our fair share of immigration specialists, and she is definitely one of the high-ranking ones. We would put her as number one just on the amount of information that she has in store. She's very real. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, which I love, because, you know, we all got big dreams, right? We all believe that we'll be singing, you know, New York, New York by Alicia Keys or something. But it's different. Alicia, darling, welcome, welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. How is it going on your end?
Well, it's going, man. And listen, everybody's excited to chat with you because people have tons of questions. So I am the ambassador of question and answer, right? First of all, well, you have this. This is what is so crazy. We're doing this and you know you got all the answers already. What is the role? What is the purpose of an immigration specialist? So why would I need an immigration specialist if I am thinking of moving to another country, in particular Canada?
Well, you want to make sure that you understand, one, your rights, right, and options that are available to you. Anybody can give you answers. You can go online, you can go on the Immigration Canada website. But it's one thing to read, but you also have to understand what it's saying, because it is quite complex. It's a lot of information. And, you know, as a consultant, I help to break it down. And then I also, I'll ask questions relating to the individual. And then based on what they tell me, I point them to the right direction as to what programs might work best for them. So that saves them time. As opposed to them going through all the information on the website, trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah, and there are a lot of avenues, and that's what I want us, and I'm happy that we're doing this today, because on top of that, I know that you have a special seminar sessions that you're doing to help Bahamians in particular, and I told you last night, you're a brilliant young woman, because you know, it's one thing to have a business, but it's another thing to know when the season is perfect. And there's a perfect season, and I think the perfect season is now. Okay, Tell me a bit about, let's say I got a family of 4, family of 5. I am found myself recently unemployed due to COVID, and I work in the hotel industry. What type of opportunities would be good for me if I'm thinking of making a move?
This is where I say, come to the seminar. Because actually the seminar, I'm going to be highlighting the programs that are available to, I don't want to use the word low scale, but we will say low scale workers, let's say within the hotel industry, retail or restaurant industry. I'm going to be talking about a specific program. It's called the Atlantic Provincial Pilot Program. So this program, basically, it is an agreement that the Atlantic provinces have with Immigration Canada. There are employers within these provinces that have this agreement with immigration to say, hey, we can hire foreign workers without going through the long work permit process. So all that they will need to do is to provide the job offer, and then the worker will just apply for their work permit. So if you're in, these fields, please come. I'm going to be providing you with the list of employers.
Wow.
Again, that are a part of this agreement. And all you got to do is look through to see, okay, well, which industry relates to me, right? And once you can find that, or once you find them, contact the employers and find out, well, are they hiring right now? So again, like if you're in the industries that I mentioned, please come get the list for yourself, look through it, and see if you can find an employer that you can approach.
Yeah. One of the questions that I would have for you is, if we're looking at this, globally, the pandemic is real, right? So this is a real thing. And this pandemic is affecting everywhere. And I know that Canada has its own restrictions as well, and travel restrictions. I'm sure that we may be on the list of countries that might be restricted at this point. But how is it still beneficial for folks to make a move in the time of COVID? Is it that Canada is still looking, the tourism sector?
Listen, COVID is happening, but business is still going on, right? We still have, the economy still have to thrive. So we haven't shut anything down. You can still apply for jobs. So the opportunities are still there. The only difference that I would say that COVID might have made is that there might be a delay in processing time of your application. But trust me, the jobs are still there, especially in the region, in the Atlantic regions. They are desperate for workers, right? Because everybody tends to, when they migrate to Canada, they tend to situate themselves in the more popular provinces like Ontario or Vancouver or Alberta, right? But there are other provinces in Canada that needs you. They need talent. They need talent. So come.
Well, the provinces you spoke about, though, they're the warmer ones, right? Come on now, they're the warmer ones.
They're not warm, girl.
Well, listen, compared to Alberta, I would take Ontario. And when you talk about the Atlantic provinces, what provinces are those?
So we're looking at PEI, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, right?
Nova Scotia is nice.
Yeah, it is. But remember too, just because, let's just say you were to get a job offer in one of these provinces, right? It doesn't mean that you have to stay there permanently. You stay, you work, you get your PR. Once you get your PR, you have mobility rights. You are allowed to move about anywhere in Canada, right? But say, put a plan in place, put a plan of action in place, but you have to start somewhere.
I like that thought too, and I think that's great. One of the things is the culture of moving. Bahamians, we're not movers. Like we're not big people who migrate. We're not a big migrating group, right? So when I can imagine when we think of moving, we're thinking of going one spot, and like that's it, right? And what you said there was very key and very important, that we learned quickly that, hey, there are other options. And
you have to go where the opportunity is. So if the opportunity is here right now, go get it. Once you get it, move on, right?
Yeah.
You have to change your mindset.
We have immigration specialist, fellow Bahamian. I call her Bahamian, even though she's got her Jamaican roots, or Jamaican. Should I say Jamaican or Jamaican roots?
Either one.
Okay. So she's a fellow sister in arms in the Caribbean, immigration specialist for Canada in particular, Alicia Lewis. Okay, so Alicia, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that there are processes to this thing. Though you're wanted and you're needed in certain provinces, there's probably certain programs that make it easier, but overall there's still a process. Okay. How long have you seen, how long does it normally take for persons from the start, the initiation, from starting to get the information from you to moving? What is that timeline like?
I would say the application process could take up to, and again, it really depends on what you're applying for. I would say give yourself about a year to get here. It could be less, or it could be more, but average a year, right? And then from that point on, to get your PR, it could take another year to 2 years. But it all depends on the program that you are coming under. So if you are coming first to study and then work and then get your PR, it could take about 3 years in total. So that's given, the application process, time to study, and then to apply for the PR. If you are coming straight as a skilled worker, that could take about a year. So it really depends on the program that you're applying under.
What is the transition like for most folks? There are concerns, right? Like I said, we're not big we love to travel, but we're not we're not big in leaving, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about it, but concerned about the transition? How is that transition like? What advice would you give to someone who wants to make this move?
Be open, right? It's definitely not going to be easy. There are a lot of people that come to me, especially from the Caribbean, and they think, oh yes, once they come to Canada, they will get a job right away. They'll get the big house, and the car and whatever. For some, it'll happen that quickly, and then for others, it won't. But give yourself time. Don't get frustrated with the process. Have a plan in place, right? And stick to the plan. Keep your focus. Many people, once they get here, they lose their focus quite quickly, right? And if they start feeling pressure, they give up, right? Don't. Just stick to the plan that you started out with, and you will get to where it is that you need to. It's all within the mind, really. So like I said before, change your mindset. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, stick with the plan. What type of plan should we have? What type of plan should we be going into? Is it knowing how much money that you need to take with you? What area you're going to? How long? What type of plan are you seeing successful persons who migrate have versus unsuccessful people that migrate?
So you have those. I would say, when I say have a plan, say, okay, well, I'm going, in order to survive, if it's just me alone, how much do I need for accommodation, right? For at least a year or two. How much can carry me over until I find a job? Where do I intend to live? Do your research, right, on the area. Do you want to live within the city? Do you want to live in the suburbs? These are things that you really gotta look at, and then from there plot out, okay, well, how long might it take me to find a job? Give yourself at least 3 months. I say it might be less than that. You might be able to find a job within less than a month, right, of arriving in Canada. But for some, it might take up to about 3 months or so, right? So make sure that you have enough to carry yourself, to carry you over until you get that job. It'll go a long way. And that's what most of my clients do. They make sure that they have enough funds. If they're coming without a job offer, they make sure that they have enough funds to carry them over it. And then say, okay, well, how long will it take? It's going to take me about a year or so to get fully settled, meaning get used to the lifestyle, get your accommodation, because you might get someplace to stay when you initially come, but what if you don't like that area initially? You might have to move again. So I would say about a year to really settle into the pattern of life.
should you migrate without a job? What would you recommend? Should people migrate if they don't have a job offer? How would you advise them in that?
Again, it really depends on the person's situation, right? Because one, you can't really just migrate without a job. You can't really migrate to Canada without, again, this
something
plan, right? You can't come thinking, okay, well, I'm going to just get up and come to Canada. And when I get to the border, when they ask me, what's your purpose here? I'm going to look for a job. No,
right. It doesn't work that way.
They will turn you back. So again, call a consultant, speak to them, let them advise you. Okay, is there a job available? Are there jobs available within your field? Start looking, get the job offer first before you come to Canada. Okay, what if it takes about a year? I don't want to wait for a year. What are my other options? There are other options. Okay, well, maybe I want to go to school first and then get my work permit after I have studied, right? Because that's another way to get a work permit in Canada is once you've completed at least 1 year of study, the government will give you a work permit, right? So yeah, that could be an option, but you're not going to know. It is always best to speak to someone first before you make that step, because you can't just get up and say, okay, I'm going to come to Canada like that. And then once I'm here, I'm going to look for a job.
Yeah.
It's a bit more complex.
Okay, so then persons who are, let's talk about the Atlantic region, right? So you have a lot of families because of COVID, because we're tourism heavy, whole families have found themselves, husband and wife found themselves unemployed, right? Yeah. But let's say they've been in the industry for years. They're probably in their mid 40s, early 50s, but they still got children who are dependents, right? What would you say to them? Is that Atlantic offer an offer that you can say, listen, you guys still have an opportunity here, or are they too old?
Yeah, actually, they definitely have the options there, right? It is a good option for them because with the Atlantic, I won't go into too much details right now about the program, but basically, if you can obtain that, just the job offer alone, right, you will then qualify to apply under express entry, because now you have a job offer. The express entry is a points system. If you can secure a job offer in one of the provinces, you get at least 600 points. The average amount of points that you need to get under express entry is about mid 400.
Really?
Going up. So just imagine if you can secure that job like right away, you would qualify under the express entry for permanent residency for not only yourself, but for your family as well, right?
That's great news.
Then, you know, of course, on top of that, the express entry also takes into consideration your education, work experience, and other things, right? But 600 points, everybody wants that.
I'm thinking about it now.
Go for it, right?
Yeah, and you know, something else within tourism. Tourism is a wide range of careers, right? So you have from your porter to your, you know, general manager. You have your IT technicians, your sales reps. You have quite a slew of jobs within tourism. Is it just those? Is it the whole gamut of the wide range of these jobs that these regions are looking for, or is it a particular jobs that these regions are looking for?
Well, it's really, you're going to have to, so the list that I'm going to give list all the employers, right? The majority of the employers on these on the list are within again, like the hotel industry, the food industry, and so forth. But it doesn't mean that's it. There might be, employers like banks or, accounting companies or, other industries as well, right? But it's really going to take, time for you to go through and sort through the different employers to see, okay, well, yeah, okay, I can apply to this. I'm an accountant or I'm an admin person. This is an administrative company. I'm going to apply to them and see what happens. But it's not just the Atlantic region alone that has this program. There are other programs as well that the other provinces have, such as the provincial nomination program. It works sort of like the Atlantic program, but it's separate on its own. So that program looks at the other provinces that are not within the Atlantic region.
Personally, I think that anyone who's listening should be quite excited if they were thinking about making a move. Alicia, tell us a bit about where we can get this information from. When are you hosting these seminars so that as many folks can join and sign up? And I gather that it's going to be COVID approved, right?
So the seminar will be online through Zoom on September 12th at 12 p.m. And you can sign up on my website at T4UCanadianImmigration.com. So that's—
Say it again for me.
T4UCanadianImmigration.com. I'm going to spell it. The letter T, the number 4, the letter U, CanadianImmigration.com. Again, T, the letter T, the number 4, the letter U, CanadianImmigration.com. And the information about the seminar will be there.
Excellent. And you said this is September 12th, midday.
12th, right, at 12 p.m. And that's
12 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, I forgot. Oh my gosh.
Just to make sure, right? Just 12 p.m. Eastern. And before we go, this seminar is to help as many people as possible to learn about all the avenues that they can safely migrate and not be turned away at the border like folks who've tried it before.
So actually, that's a good point. The seminar, so it's actually a 5-part seminar that I'm doing. So the first part, we're just going to be focusing on the work options available to more so the lower skill workers, right? And then the other, the other seminars, we're going to explore the other options for everyone else, right? I forgot to also include with this seminar, please, if you're a truck driver, if you are a nurse or even a child caregiver, please come out because I'm going to also have information for you as well, because you could be here in 2 years or get your permanent residency in 2 years. In 2 years. So
nurse, truck driver, Jesus, wait, hold on. Don't tell the nurses. We need the nurses. Sisters, nurses, you ain't here nothing. We need y'all here, even though truck drivers and caregivers, the child caregivers. Those two I'll announce. The nurses, I need them to stay a little bit longer because you're trying to take the last bit of COVID, superheroes we got. But that's excellent news. You can get PR in 2 years, truck drivers?
Right. So all you need is, again, that job offer. Once you get that job offer, you can then apply at the same time for your work permit and permanent residency. Once you get your work permit, your family can actually travel with you until your permanent residency comes through. Right?
That's awesome. I was about to ask that.
Saying that it'll take about 2 years. This is a new program that the government has in place. They have to do an overhaul of the old program, so this is what they've come up with. So,
and will the spouses be able to work? Will your family members be able to work whilst you're?
Yes.
That's great.
The spouse can work. They'll get a work permit. Your kids will get study permits so that they can go to school. So yeah, it's a great opportunity.
That's a great opportunity.
So we don't want to leave
drive a
anybody
car
out.
really good. I can drive a car really good. That doesn't count, right? No, just not really. Thanks, Alicia. Better fix the face. Don't forget, listen, September 12th, 12 midday, that's noon Eastern, we will be hosting, when I say we, not me, Alicia Lewis, the Canadian immigration specialist, will be hosting this Zoom meeting, a Zoom seminar, and it'll be fantastic, very informative. T for you, Canadian immigration, correct.com. All right, go there, register. The letter T, the number 4, the letter U, CanadianImmigration.com. And go as soon as you can, get yourselves registered. We gotta go. It's amazing how time flies. Alicia, you did great.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. If you missed any part of this, go on YouTube, the channel Nahaja Black. Everyone, thank you so much for a beautiful day. Enjoy your weekend. Alicia, thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You're listening to the Hit Bag with Nahaja Black, Guardian 96.9 FM. Everyone have a great weekend. We're out.